I am really glad to be chatting with you. You're one of my favorites because Map of the Human Heart is possibly top 10 all-time favorite films of mine.
Wow,
So real pleasure for
fantastic.
me. And
Oh,
and like everything from Jungle Book to Rapa Nui, even Time Cop 2 and Milan, I own them all. So
wow. Is that are those all movies in the background? Is that
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Wow.
yeah. And you're in there. You're in
Wow.
there, that's for sure.
You are really
Um
wow, man. That's amazing.
So I would guess that The Wind and the Reckoning would be possibly your most personal film. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Very close to my heart. And just a labor of love. It's just we, especially with growing up in Hawaii, and I never really spoke the Hawaiian language fluently, the Olela Hawaii. But, you know, being from here, you hear it all the time, and it's always kind of spoken to you and by people who understand the language, and to be able to get into a room with a teacher and try to get a grasp of it and deliver it authentically for the period of that film, it was just very special. I mean, that it was hard, it was grueling. It was like at one point I actually called the director and I said, I think you should hire a native speaker because I'm like, it was a struggle. It was a real
Mm,
struggle, even though, I understood the cadence of it. I understood the, kind of the preparation and a lot of things, the roots of the language. But it's one thing to learn the language, but it's another thing to perform it. And that was a big, big hurdle.
I
And one
suppose when you're so close to the culture as well, you really want to do it justice.
Oh, I'm sure if I did it incorrectly, I would get phone calls, I would get hate mail. I definitely, you're gonna get like blackballed for a little while. Like, definitely, people are very proud of the culture. Although Hawaiians don't make up a large a percentage of the population, even in our homeland, but they definitely there's a big presence, and the culture is still alive and thriving and yeah, for sure, you want to make them proud. You want to make them proud.
Yeah, awesome. I couldn't agree more. You're a producer on the film too. Like, how did the project come to you in the first place?
It first came to me from the director who had his eye on this story for a long time, and he brought it to my attention. I thought, oh, this is great, but I never think it's going to get made. And then through the years, I think he came to me back. He came back to me and presented different versions of the script. Some were larger budgets, some were medium budgets, and then at this point in time. Um, uh, COVID hit.
Mm,
And so it was this idea like the director felt that this story of Ko'olau, um, the leper, as they called him, was a pertinent and relevant story to what was happening at this time of COVID. So he felt, this period piece, the timing is right to do it now. And there was no money available because everything's shut down. It's like, and so he went back to John Fusco, the writer, and said, "Hey, what can we do?" And
mhm.
so they pared it down. They streamlined this into like a period piece that you could possibly make on a micro budget. And we gathered up, friends and family, and then people kind of got together and said, "Hey, who's in?" And everybody kind of who wanted to do it, who wanted to camp out on a 50-acre ranch and hole up, because there was so much protocol with COVID that, if you're on a project, you can't go out and come in of an enclosed, kind of tested area.
Mm.
So that was our confines, not only with budget but with geography, and we banged it out, and we were able to, get a film out of it. Um, and my family was with me, sleeping on the floor of this little single room bungalow, and it was just what it was, and it was fantastic. I think it was, at the end of the day, you look at films like that can be so much more rewarding
Mm.
than being on a big budget with so many other things going on. So that was kind of the beauty of it, and the
Yep.
simplicity was kind of the diamond in the rough. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. What was I going to say? The historical stories like this, I love them because they one provide like an important historical lesson to people, particularly in this case that aren't aware of not only the Leper War but the stuff that goes around it. But there's also a thrilling Western angle to this as well, and it's an exciting adventure. What was the appeal to you most? Like when you first read this script, which aspect of it were you like, glued to?
I think it was the rebelliousness of Ko'olau and his family, and being able to stand up against the authorities that were there for the righteousness of keeping family together.
Hmm.
I think that now I have my own family, so I recognize the kind of sacrifices and heart
Yeah.
and courage you need in order to stand tall, and stand right on the right side of things, and not get pushed around, even though if it comes to a standoff, at a certain point, you kind of just. And I think that integrity of that kind of character um, really just grows on you.
Hmm.
That I think that was really all about. And of course, there's always, Hawaii has been struggling for many years with its identity, because it's been occupied for so many years by the United States,
Mm.
and this has been a conflict. This has been a struggle, and I think it was nice to finally bring a voice in a small way to that effort. So that was another layer of the cake that we wanted to present that um, really hasn't been talked about. You talk about countries now in the present media being occupied. You realize what occupation is.
Hmm.
You realize the difference between colonized. What a country has been colonized
Hmm.
is, and a country there's and I recently learned the difference,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, a country that has occupied is a country that exists and has existed. A country that has been colonized was not a country that has been identified
Hmm.
as an independent state. So I was like, wow, Hawaii really is not a colonization. It has not been colonized. It's been occupied,
Mm.
and that's been the struggle with the native people, with trying to get their land back. But
Yeah.
it's part of the Wind and the Reckoning. It's part of the greater picture behind this Hawaiian family's plight. From fugitive to justice, and that to me was just in its microcosm, an epic story.
Yeah, there's a lot more of these stories I feel being told at the moment, particularly like Islander kind of stories. Like we had the Convert last year, the New Zealand Lee Tamahori film, that touches on similar themes, and yeah, I'm glad to see these sort of these stories come to light, and sort of like I said, it's a bit of an education for the rest of us. When I
Yeah.
saw this film come along, it was a double whammy for me because obviously I saw your name attached to it and I was in. But I also then found out that John Fusco, as you mentioned, is the writer, and I've loved him for just as long. So, uh, have you worked with him before? Um, and I mean, I gotta say, I always thought you should have been one of the young guns, but we'll just leave that to the side. But have you worked with him before? And what was his connection to this story?
um, John Fusco has been an advocate and has spent many times here in Hawaii writing. So Hawaii has a very dear place in his heart, and he has a lot of friends here, and I think because John is such a cowboy himself, that so much of his writing revolves around that. Um, that he couldn't resist, the fact that of a Hawaiian cowboy with a revolutionary spirit and this kind of thing. And, I think it's always been on his radar for many years now. And I remember him remarking to me, he said, you know, someone asked him, "Oh, how long has this been in the works?" He goes, "Oh, for so long." And he goes, sometimes the good ones take a lot of time. and and so, you know, he had, because of that, some of the first drafts that this Wind in the Wrecking, as we filmed it, is a very micro project in what the scope was. It was a much larger budget. Then it pared down to a medium budget, and John's been with it the whole way through, and I think, you know, his perspective with it as a Western, I think, really comes through. But you know, John, I've worked with him. I remember doing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon 2, which he penned as well.
Yes.
And he was never around as a producer. He was never around and writer for that, because he was so busy with I think that Netflix series Marco Polo.
Yep.
In Malaysia. He was inundated with that. So I worked on that. And I think was there something else that came to mind that we never crossed paths, but only since Wind in the Reckoning have we actually met each other.
Maybe he can drag you into Young Guns 3. That's my wish.
Oh man, yeah. Well, you know, Lou Diamond Phillips did a great job, man. He was super in that.
Yeah.
And I've always gone up for things with that Lou Diamond Phillips is going up before. We always
he needs needs a partner in crime. That's what he needs.
That was terrific.
How did John reckon with the and grapple with the language? Obviously he wouldn't have written it into the script, and I'm guessing it was translated. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, he gave the hand to some local kumu or teachers here in Hawaii, and we got three very distinctive teachers who really understood the period that this language was coming from, because contemporary Hawaiian language is not spoken as you know, it is as it was back then.
Yeah.
So yeah, he entrusted David Cunningham, the director, who was a locally raised kid, to really do some due diligence and vet, you know, who these teachers were going to be and how they were going to present it. And then as we presented the film with the language intact to a lot of our elders, we got thumbs up all around. So, you know, that was a really like feather in our cap, as we say, because from the actor's perspective, and speaking for the actress Lindsay Watson, who played my wife in this picture, we both had a, you know, like amazing like time trying to learn the language. It was just daunting, and it was at one point, so much so I called David Cunningham, the director. I said, you know, I really think, you know, is there still time for you to hire a native speaker for the role? I'm kind of like, you know, kind of feeling overwhelmed, because, you know, I think these kind of pictures, it's kind of like doing the Dragging the Bruce Lee story, you know?
Yep.
It's like so many eyes are looking at you to get it right, you know, and so much pressure from the Hawaiian community that, and you want to do them justice. You want to do them proud, you know, much in the same way as a film like Dragon, and it's just all this mounting pressure. And I don't care like what age, you know, back then doing Dragon, I was 26, you know, you know, I'm kind of older. So, you know, but the pressure is always the same. You can never like shake it because you care about what you do, you know, it's like, so, you know, in that sense, it's tricky.
Well,
it was hard.
Pressure produces diamonds, mate. Like, it's, you know, some of the greatest work comes under pressure. Before I start to wrap this up, I want to pivot just a little bit, because as I said, I am a massive fan, and at this point in time, I wish that my podcast co-host was here, because we champion and celebrate cult cinema, obscure and absurd cinema. And you've been in movies like Dracula 2 and Soldier, which are favorites of ours, and we reference them all the time. I'm all about Soldier. But I'm wondering, what's the most fun production you've been on over the years?
Wow.
That's a big one to think about.
It's a big one. I mean, I think it's been just so fun all the way around. I mean, I think Rapa Nui had a special place because of the community of people that live there that made that so incredible.
Mhm.
And sometimes like say in Dracula filming in Romania, we were one of
Yeah.
the first productions down there, in Bucharest, and that was like amazing. I mean, because that I had never been to that part of the country, and our crew and our cast were so fun, that we just have a hoot down there. But yeah, I think I don't know. It's like so hard
Well,
to say.
it can't have been this. It's probably a regret, if anything, but Ghoulies 3.
Oh yeah, that's that's kind of forgettable in a lot of ways, but
I
yeah,
know. Couldn't
that's
do
one
that
of those
anymore.
cult things.
Couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness. And finally, I'm just wondering, I ask this to everybody I talk to. Was there a movie that lit the spark for you that made you want to pursue acting?
Was there a what?
Was
A
there a
project?
movie in your youth that you watched that
Oh,
really lit the fire and made you want to become an actor?
oh, I think it's maybe not one picture, but it was like many performances.
Mhm.
Like I remember, watching Al Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon,
Oh,
and then
yes.
just like, and it was just so many of those iconic actors who, when they delivered a performance, to me that was like, wow, that's freedom, the freedom to have this kind of like open expression. And for a kid who was shy like myself and like kind of like, you know, brought up in a very oriental environment where you don't talk that much,
Mhm.
that was like, wow, that was to me that the beacon was like that kind of expression, that kind of passion that you put out on the on a picture or screen or paper or whatever. And I said that was a trigger. I think that kind of like you basically, as an actor, I think you're seeking freedom,
Yeah.
freedom from the confines of your everyday habit and everyday social order. So that kind of like was the, I think, the eagle in the sky.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said. Awesome. Hey, I hope everybody tracks this film down, and I hope it gets an audience because it's fantastic, and I do think it's probably your best work. It's a really really strong, powerful film. But thanks so much for taking time to have a chat, mate.
Thank you. Good to meet you, Glenn.
The story I need to tell you is true. I offer and dedicate it to my people, the native Hawaiian.
Hini o liliuka. Moi. Hawaii! Speak English, boy.
You are to shoot on sight, regardless of weapon, gender, or age.
Mai ai ka ina I loko o kou uwai e ka uki kan. E le ku ana.
Ya la kou o maki no kako. Ya la kou o makeke aina.
Call knows this land. I wouldn't underestimate him.
Yes, we'll hear the firepower and the numbers.
Where is Aleppo?
With me, my husband, Ko'olau. With me, my child, Kalei. With me until the final disappearance.
You are the trophy he obsesses, and he will not stop until you are dead.